Israeli detainee family association accuses Netanyahu of obstructing prisoner exchange deal to appease coalition partners. Israeli President Isaac Herzog calls for all measures to secure the return of detainees from Gaza. And Israeli opposition leader Yair Lapid urges government to proceed with second phase of prisoners exchange deal. It's 8 p.m. Cairo local time and you're watching Qnews. We begin today's bulletin with the latest developments in Gaza. Hamas has handed over 2 Israeli detainees to the International Red Cross officials in Rafah, southern Gaza, as part of the 7th batch in the first phase of the ceasefire agreement. This phase involves the release of 6 detainees. In exchange, 602 Palestinian detainees, including 50 serving life sentences, 60 with long sentences, and 445 from Gaza arrested after October 7th, 2023 are set to be released from Israeli prisons. The International Red Cross has received 3 additional Israeli detainees from Hamas at the Al-Nusayrat refugee camp in central Gaza following the earlier release of 2 others in Rafah. This release is part of the 7th batch of the detainees in the first phase of the ceasefire agreement, which involves the release of 6 detainees. Among those freed were Alia Cohen, Omar Shim Tov, and Omar Winkert. Additionally, a detainee named Hisham Al-Sayed from Gaza was also released without ceremony. Hamas has announced its readiness to move forward with the second phase of the ceasefire agreement in Gaza, which includes a comprehensive detainee exchange aimed at achieving a permanent ceasefire and the complete withdrawal of Israeli military forces. In a statement, Hamas warned against any Israeli attempts to renege on the ceasefire and emphasized that the only way to secure the return of all detainees from Gaza is through negotiations and strict adherence to the terms of the ceasefire agreement. Head of the Supreme Committee for Palestinian Prisoners and Detainee Affairs, Amin Shuman, has stated that the Red Cross informed the committee that Israeli authorities have postponed the release of the 7th batch of prisoners under the exchange deal until 8 p.m. Jerusalem time. Following the announcements, families who had gathered at the Qasr Ramallah Cultural Center to welcome the detainee departed the venue. This latest delay intensified concerns surrounding the ongoing prisoner exchange negotiations. The Israeli army has confirmed that the body handed over by Hamas to Israel through the International Committee of the Red Cross on Friday belongs to Sherry Bibas. This follows a mix-up earlier in the week when an incorrect body was delivered to Israel, which Tel Aviv stated was that of a Palestinian citizen. The clarification marks a resolution to the dispute over the identity of the remains. The Israeli Detainee Families Association in Gaza has accused Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of obstructing a detainee exchange deal designed to secure the release of detainees, alleging that his actions are aimed at appeasing coalition partners at the expense of families. The group emphasized that 63 detainees remain in Gaza and claimed that U.S. President Donald Trump and his Middle East envoy are committed to returning more detainees than Netanyahu has managed. They warned that attempts to derail the second phase of the exchange agreement must be stopped, insisting no family should pay the price for the government's failure. Israeli President Isaac Herzog has called for every available measure to be used to secure the return of detainees from the Gaza Strip. Describing the exchange agreement as a humanitarian and ethical imperative, Herzog stressed that immediate action is needed to bring the detainees home. Opposition leader Yair Lapid has urged the government to proceed without delay to the second phase of the detainee exchange deal. Lapid emphasized the critical need for the prompt return of all Israeli detainees from Gaza, adding to mounting pressure on the government to expedite the process. Leader of the Israeli Democrat Party Yair Golan has criticized Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, stating that everyday detainees remain in Gaza due to the government's neglect. Israeli media reported that Netanyahu is holding security consultations tonight to discuss plans for recovering all detainees, both living and deceased, as political pressure intensifies. At the Rafah border crossing, Egyptian authorities have welcomed the 20th batch of Palestinian patients and injured individuals arriving from the Gaza Strip. The group, which includes 37 patients and 59 companions, arrived as part of Egypt's ongoing efforts to provide essential medical assistance and support to the people of Gaza. The Speaker of the Egyptian Parliament has condemned malicious plans aimed at displacing Palestinians from Gaza, emphasizing that they seek to eliminate the Palestinian cause. He highlighted Egypt's role in providing diplomatic protection to prevent such schemes. Additionally, Egypt is developing a comprehensive multi-phase recovery and reconstruction plan for Gaza, ensuring Palestinians remain. He added that Egypt's approach stresses that regional and global stability depends on final settlements, guaranteeing an independent Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital. Israeli occupation forces have launched aggressive operations across the West Bank, escalating tensions and triggering violent clashes in multiple areas. The details.
The West Bank is currently witnessing an unprecedented escalation in Israeli military operations, with recent attacks such as those in Tulkarm that resulted in the deaths of 2 Palestinian children, highlighting the gravity of the situation. This escalation, particularly in areas like Nablus, Tulkarm, and Al-Khalil, reflects Israel's broader strategy of exerting control over the region through military pressure, settlement expansion, and the continued suppression of Palestinian resistance. At the core of Israel's actions is the policy of territorial Judaization, which seeks to alter the demographic makeup of the region by encouraging Israeli settlements, confiscating Palestinian land, and displacing local populations. The ongoing military operations, including raids into refugee camps, further aim to dismantle Palestinian Authority structures and prevent any meaningful political reconciliation thus weakening the Palestinian cause. The consequences of these actions are profound. They deepen divisions between Palestinians and Israelis, generating widespread resentment. This relentless aggression undermines hopes for peace, escalating tensions and increasing calls for Palestinian unity in the face of Israeli occupation. The continued targeting of civilians and infrastructure exacerbates this sense of insecurity and injustice within Palestinian communities. International reactions to Israel's actions have been largely rhetorical, with the United Nations expressing concern but taking no substantial action. Many states, while voicing disapproval, have shown limited practical response. As Israel pursues its territorial objectives, the future of Palestine's sovereignty remains at risk. With the international community's inaction contributing to further instability, the Palestinian cause faces a critical juncture.
The United Nations has expressed concern over the ongoing Israeli aggression in the cities of the West Bank, particularly in the north, for the second consecutive month. The spokesperson for the UN Secretary General Stefan Dujarric stated that the United Nations remains concerned about the continuous operations carried out by Israeli forces in the northern part of the West Bank, which are the longest since the early 2000s.
President Zelensky sits in office after duly held elections. Michelle.
For more analysis, we now move to Salma Marwan in our newsroom. To you, Salma.
Thank you, Mona. And for further analysis, we're joined from Cairo by the editor-in-chief of Al-Shuruq newspaper and Egyptian Senator, Ahmed El-Din Hussein. Mr. Ahmed, thank you so much for joining us on Qnews. And let me first start by asking you, how will the delay of the Palestinian detainees impact the ongoing negotiations and the families involved?
May peace be upon you. Greetings to you and to the viewers. Naturally, more impediments and obstacles for the Palestinian side, who committed to the ceasefire negotiations and agreements and released all the Israeli detainees, but Israel is stalling and delaying and trying to delay the second phase of the negotiation. There are no other justifications or excuses. They are only provoking the Palestinian side to commit one mistake to delay going to the second phase.
So with the near completion of the first phase of the ceasefire and the detainee exchange agreement, and from the delay we're witnessing now, what are the chances that the negotiations of the second phase of the agreement will succeed?
In my personal opinion, the chances for going to a second phase, if it's up to Netanyahu and the far-right officials, it's only 5% chance to go to a second phase. Netanyahu wants to get out of the second phase because it means a complete ceasefire and withdrawal from Gaza, which means the fall of the Netanyahu government and him getting prosecuted and imprisoned. He's going to resort to all methods to delay going to a second phase, and the only development that might lead to a second phase is that US President Donald Trump forces Netanyahu to go to the second phase, as what he has done when he forced him to sign the ceasefire agreement in last 19th of January.
So we're witnessing large-scale military operations in the West Bank that are unprecedented. What strategy is Israel trying to adopt here from your point of view, and how will this reflect on the overall detainee exchange agreement?
Israeli strategy is very clear. After destroying and demolishing the Gaza Strip, they are repeating the same case in the West Bank, which is unfortunately some of the Palestinian individual operations give the Israeli side the excuses. We have seen claims of Israeli buses bombings, a lot of claims saying that this is only a means to destroy and diminish more homes and buildings in the West Bank. And here Netanyahu wants to continue what he started in Gaza. The West Bank here is the essential objective, not Gaza. Of course, he wants to destroy Gaza and end the resistance there, and he wants to displace all the population living there according to the Trump proposal. But the essential objective of Israel is the annexation of West Bank. They are waiting for a president from Donald Trump to recognize the Israeli sovereignty over the West Bank.
So with 602 Palestinian detainees set to be released, what do you see as the most important next steps in the ongoing negotiations, especially as Hamas warns against Israel's potential failure to adhere to the ceasefire terms?
The current plan, most probably the first phase will be finalized in 42 days. And what Netanyahu wants is to extend the first phase and not go to the second phase. This will spare him from going to the second phase and completing the negotiations to satisfy the far-right officials and his government. And therefore, I think this is the essential goal set by Netanyahu till Donald Trump gives the order based on the outcomes of the Arab summit and the Arab plan regarding the Gaza reconstruction led by Egypt, and it is supposed to be presented during the next Arab summit.
From Cairo, that was the editor-in-chief of Bulletin newspaper and Egyptian Senator Ahmed El-Din Hussein. Thank you so much for joining us here on Qnews. And now we're going to move back to Mona in the studio.
Thank you so much, Salma, for the analysis. And now we move on to the latest developments in Lebanon.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين. وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
Lebanese President Joseph Aoun has emphasized that southern border stability requires Israel's withdrawal from occupied hills and detainee return. Aoun urged sponsoring countries, especially the United States, to pressure Israel for full compliance with the ceasefire. He condemned Israel's violation of the agreement, citing the continued occupation of Lebanese hills. Aoun stressed that the Lebanese army has deployed in towns vacated by Israeli occupation forces and is prepared to secure the entire border. The Egyptian ambassador to Beirut, Ala Musa, has delivered an invitation from Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to his Lebanese counterpart, Joseph Aoun, to participate in the urgent Arab summit hosted by Cairo at the beginning of next month. Also, the Egyptian ambassador emphasized the commitment to supporting the Lebanese people and strengthening the Lebanese army to achieve stability in the country. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun has met with a congressional delegation with U.S. Ambassador to Lebanon Lisa Johnson to attendance to discuss U.S.-Lebanese relations, border security, and economic stability. U.S. Congressman Ronnie Jackson has reaffirmed U.S. support for the Lebanese armed forces to control the country and the security of the country, saying it's their responsibility to secure the borders and to provide security as soon as possible. Moving on to Damascus, where the European Union is set to suspend serious sanctions related to energy, transport, and reconstruction. That comes as the Council of the EU has decided to suspend several restrictive measures in areas of energy, transport and reconstruction, as well as to facilitate the associated financial and banking transactions. In Tehran, the Iranian news agency has reported that Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov will visit Iran on February 25th to discuss the latest developments in the Syrian issue with his Iranian counterpart. The Russian Foreign Ministry has confirmed that Moscow is ready to engage in practical talks with the United States following the change in tone in Washington's statements after U.S. President Donald Trump took office.
В мире, если не полное согласие, оно невозможно, но, по крайней мере,
And now we move on to the latest developments in the United States.
Donald Trump is insane, and he's there to stay.
As unlikely, impossible, is now reality.
America powerful. We will win, win, win. And we will make America great again. We will very quickly make America great again.
White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt has said that U.S. President Donald Trump is set to meet with French President Emmanuel Macron on February 24th. Leavitt added that Trump is also expected to meet with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer on February 27th.
In just 4 weeks, President Trump has already hosted the leaders of Israel, Japan, Jordan, and India. And next Monday, the president will host France's President Emmanuel.
Kash Patel was sworn in as FBI's director after a narrow 51-49 vote in the Republican-controlled Senate. Despite opposition from the two moderate Republicans, Patel's confirmation marks the rise of a Trump loyalist at the helm of the FBI and increasing political tensions. Critics, particularly Democrats, raised concerns over his past political advocacy for Trump, while Republican supporters argue he will reform the agency and restore public trust. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has met the Polish Foreign Minister in Washington, D.C., discussing key international issues. Meanwhile, the Polish president is scheduled to meet U.S. President Donald Trump in Washington. This meeting follows the Polish president's call for Ukrainian President Zelensky to maintain constructive cooperation with Trump. The discussions come amid rising tensions between Trump and Zelensky, causing concerns among Ukraine's European allies.
What do you plan for Russia's war in Ukraine?
And now we move on to the latest developments in the Russo-Ukrainian war. U.S. President Donald Trump has encouraged Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky to cooperate. Trump noted that Russia was willing to make a deal. He also mentioned that the U.S. was nearing an agreement with Ukraine regarding a critical mineral deal.
I think that President Putin and
President Zelensky are going to have to get together because you know what? We want to stop.
US President Donald Trump has stated that Ukraine has no leverage as he urged Kiev to sign a crucial minerals agreement while engaging in talks to end Russia's conflict with Ukraine. Trump hosted a business session with US governors during the National Governors Association's annual winter meeting. He also mentioned a meeting with Apple CEO Tim Cook, who disclosed a significant investment plan, though details were not provided.
You don't want to see him, and that is a killing field.
That brings us to the end of our news bulletin. Here is what we've been covering. Israeli Detainee Families Association accuses Netanyahu of obstructing a prisoner exchange deal to appease coalition partners. Israeli President Isaac Herzog calls for all measures to secure the return of detainees from Gaza. And Israeli opposition leader Yair Lapid urges government to proceed with the second phase of prisoners' exchange deal. This concludes our news bulletin for the hour. Don't forget to follow Qnews on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram and TikTok at Qnews EGY to stay informed. Many thanks for watching and good night.